New tonight, a Minnesota man arrested just days after posting pictures with this ISIS flag.
Today, 6 Somali Americans who live in Minnesota were charged with attempting to enlist with the terrorist group known as Islamic State, or ISIS.
2 women charged with raising money for the terror group by going door to door in Somali neighborhoods in Minnesota were arrested earlier today. Minneapolis, with the nation's largest Somali population, is ground zero for al-Shabaab recruitment.
All right, defenders, welcome back. Let's talk the news. So, recently, in this last December, we had a Somali American man get arrested for trying to join ISIS. Well, this September, his charges finally went through with trying to aid and support a terrorist organization. Now, he's not the first one either. Back in 2016, we actually had 3 more that went to try to go join ISIS as well. Those 3 were unsuccessful, however, also. And why are we talking about this? Well, this ties in a lot with what's happening right now in Minnesota with immigration fraud, with money missing from scandals, from the Feed the Future program, and from charity programs, possibly disappearing into NGO pockets and coffers, and possibly to aid foreign terrorist organizations, okay? Now, does that seem like a stretch? It might at first, but when you actually start looking at patterns that are happening in Minnesota, it's not so far-fetched with the things that are happening. Minnesota's kind of a hot mess right now. So let's kind of go back in time real quick and rewind things. 2008, we actually had several individuals try to go join al-Shabaab. Some were successful. In fact, there's about 20 to 30 youth, the youngest being 17 years old, that successfully got over and disappeared in Somalia. And the youngest one that we know of that died fighting with al-Shabaab against the Somali government was from right here in Minneapolis. Heck, he even worked at the airport, which that should be cause for concern as well when we start talking about things like you're working at the airport, security reasons, what background checks were done, who checked this individual out, okay? So that's all the way back in 2008. Moving forward a little bit, we actually had an instance of fraud with money being laundered and filtered out to go aid al-Shabaab. This was 3 individuals that got rolled up, 2 ladies and their male handler, and this was out of Rochester, Minnesota back in 2011, where they were going door to door taking charity, and they were rolled up, and one of them was charged with 12 accounts of giving aid to a foreign terrorist organization, al-Shabaab, and the other lady got some lesser charges. And again, this is not new for Minnesota. Individuals that I know at the airport, they've talked about it, where you actually have people from Somalia or that are refugees in the United States or immigrants in the U.S., in Minnesota, Minneapolis, and what they're doing is they're taking American dollars and they will travel overseas, not take us so much because there is a limit, I believe, for flight and travel where it doesn't pop CBP coming in and investigating and confiscating the money and doing an investigation. And they will take massive amounts of money between multiple people and smuggle it out of the U.S. to go back to Somalia. And where's that money going from there? Well, it's not so far-fetched to think that that money is going to aid al-Shabaab or even ISIS when ISIS was then growing. Because like I said, we rolled up 3 other individuals back in 2016 that were going to go aid ISIS. And then we have the recent conviction here in September of that individual from Minneapolis going to, again, getting charged with going to aid and abet a foreign terrorist organization with ISIS, okay? That was Ahmed Hassan this year. Now, he did this back in, like I mentioned, December 2024, and he attempted to travel from Minnesota to Somalia, and he tried to do it twice. The interesting part is like, okay, why wasn't he stopped? We stopped him both times, right? Why was this allowed to hit a point where he went and did it again? That there were 2 attempts to go and join ISIS. Al-Shabaab's bad, Al-Qaeda's bad, definitely. ISIS was on a whole nother level as far as war crimes, humanitarian, crimes against humanity, man. They did some terrible, terrible stuff, okay? So he made his initial appearance in the District of Minnesota this last month and was ordered to remain in custody pending formal detention hearing, which will take place at a later date. But he is getting charged, and he's going to be going to jail for that, okay? So these events in Minnesota going all the way back to 2008 to today are not new. 2008, trying to join al-Shabaab. We had individuals that succeeded, Young one, 17 years old, died. Then we had the charity scandal out of Rochester with with three individuals, and all of that's rolling into today. With now you have the Feed the Future scandal as well. $250 million disappeared.
50 people facing federal criminal charges tonight in what investigators call the largest case of COVID fraud yet nationwide. And it allegedly happened right here in Minnesota. The U.S. Attorney for Minnesota says the group Feeding Our Future, led by Amy Bach, stole $250 million of federal COVID money meant to feed children in need.
Now they found 75 million of it. Okay, so that's still a lot that's missing, and that doesn't even mean they got the money back. That's one thing that they're not talking about. Okay, that's them tracking where that money actually went. Okay, and Waltz himself actually had to go to Congress and testify this. And if you live here in Minnesota, this should irritate you a little bit.
Your tax dollars tonight, it cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to prepare Governor Tim Walz for a congressional hearing in Washington, D.C.
Chief Political Reporter Tom Hauser was there for that hearing last month, and tonight he's following up, asking the governor about the price tag.
Governor Walz defends the spending of $430,000 in legal fees to prepare for that hearing. He told me he agrees the amount is ridiculous, but he blames Republicans in Congress who invited him and two other Democratic governors to testify.
He actually used $430,000 from you, the taxpayer. Okay. Now remember, Waltz came into office with a surplus and he's burned all of it. Okay, so $430,000 to pay for a private lawyer. Why? The state lawyer essentially said, hey, you need to get more help. You need to get a private lawyer. So he dipped into public funds to fund him having a lawyer to prep him for the congressional hearing. So that's a little more fun, food for thought for you on that as you go forward voting. Do what you will with that on your own. Okay. All right, so where are we at with the Feed the Future scandal? This is an ongoing scandal for Minnesota. Investigations are currently happening, and it's not even one or two investigations. There are hundreds of investigations that are open, not just with Feed the Future, but there's additional scandals with the CCAP, the Child I always forget this one, the Child Care Assistance Program. Okay, again, from 2020 to 2022, with millions of dollars missing. And again, this is nothing new. We've caught and seen, and there's been trials on this, where the Somali population in Minnesota has been absolutely abusing the child care system and abusing immigration to help further and benefit themselves. Okay, the big one with immigration is, and this is why it irritates me the most, because it absolutely affects your rights as a gun owner, as a Minnesotan, as an American. Okay, is that ICE has just rolled in this last September, and it was just reported on the 30th. New York Post picked up the story on this, and the Star Tribune, which is a major newspaper, I'm going to call it a rag here in Minnesota. Okay, it's not worth wiping your butt with. They lean pretty far left. Even they are admitting there's some immigration issues, even with Ilhan Omar. In fact, they pretty much are confirming, yeah, the evidence is there. She totally married her brother to get into the United States, or to get her brother into the United States, for that matter. Okay, committing immigration fraud, right? And that she herself may not be legal at all either. So, and she's a representative for the state of Minnesota in Congress. And if we've seen her interviews, who is she actually representing? Because it's not Americans, okay? And what we're seeing with the Somali population here is that they have, with this recent ICE roll into the Twin Cities, they've found 50% of that Somali population, they are here illegally. And what they're doing is that they're claiming wives as brothers or sisters, or brothers and sisters' wives, vice versa, in order to get them over here, abusing a marriage status, abusing H-1B visa status, abusing F-1 visa status. And I mean, it is a total mess here in Minnesota. And all of these individuals, if they become naturalized, which there's a bunch of them that have, even though they did the process illegally, are voting. And they are voting to take your rights away as a U.S. citizen, as a Minnesotan. They're voting in elections. They're part of the gerrymandering issues for Minnesota, for the Twin Cities. I mean, like, go look at any district map for Minnesota. Man, it's just like Chicago. It looks like a toddler drew the districts on a map. And that is a huge voting block for the DFL, the Democratic Farmers Labor Union in Minnesota. The DFL, that's the Democratic Party here, for if you're outside Minnesota, if you were wondering what that is. And they had some of these individuals that are representatives for the state in state legislation on the special session that we've already covered in previous videos, talking about banning your gun rights after the Annunciation Church shooting. This was part of that special session that Waltz had pushed, and fortunately has stalled out completely because he doesn't have the votes that are there. The House is completely split, leaning Republican, and then the Senate is completely split with one vote missing after the unfortunate assassination of the DFL state senator right here in Minneapolis. So a lot of stuff happening. Where am I really going with all this in the end? I mean, you're looking at this pattern of money laundering, of fraud, of illegal immigration into the U.S., and conclaves in the Twin Cities, where you have an area we call Cedar, that's Cedar Riverside, that's literally jokingly or called as a slur, Little Mogadishu, where it really isn't that safe to go to. Okay, it's a problem. And when you have an immigrant population, and we've seen this in the past, not just with Somalians though too, where you have an immigrant population that the parents come over and they identify as Somalian, they're not identifying as American, they're not really here to further America, and then you have their children who are in this weird nebulous in-between state where they don't identify with the culture they're in now with the United States, and they don't quite identify with their parents' culture because they weren't born in Somalia, and they have less to identify with and hang on to. You gain a restless population that doesn't know what to do with themselves. Okay, it's kind of like what we're seeing with Gen Zers right now, and millennials, Gen Zers, and where they have nothing to lose, they can't identify, and you have bouts of extremism that rise up, and so you have a population here that is actively supporting terrorist organizations, have been found guilty of their members actively supporting terrorist organizations from Al-Shabaab to ISIS, and it's not far-fetched to think that then you could have a turnaround where then you would have terrorist incidents on U.S. soil. And that is my bigger concern, is to have like my viewers, you defenders out there, is to just be prepared, okay? What's the biggest thing that you can do right now? Go vote, right? Go make your voice heard. Go do it loud and legally. And what do I mean by that? Put your money where your mouth is. Go run for a political position. If you're sick of a person that's representing you, go be that person. Go do something. If you're not the political type and you just don't think you can muster it, donate. The gun owners, Minnesota Gun Owners Caucus, Gun Owners of America, the Firearms Policy Coalition. These guys are doing heavy lifting with pushing rights for you right here in Minnesota. Okay, and you know what? I'll say it. The GOP in Minnesota is kind of crap half the time, or like a lot of the time. They don't push good candidates. Okay. Maybe you can be one of those ones that could be a good candidate, that can show change, and it can show change peacefully, okay? So what I'm getting at, man, go be involved. Go be a defender, but also just be aware, be safe, be prepared, not scared. That's what we base this whole company on. What we base this channel on is being prepared and not scared. So, if you're a concealed carry guy, just having that situational awareness, being aware of the surrounding environment around you, so you can, God forbid, if you ever had to stop a threat, you're able to do so. But you can also, it's not just about stopping a threat, that you can go and help somebody else in a medical emergency, in a fire, something else, that you are a prepared individual that's ready to step up for their community. And now's the time to do these things. Okay, again, put your money where your mouth is. Go be and do these things. Be the protector that your family knows you are. That's all really that's all I want out of you guys, okay, is to be that defender your family knows you are, okay? Anyways, it's Mike with ADS. Thanks for sticking around. God bless and good night. Remember, stay prepared and not scared, everybody.